Your last, one of the interesting things, your first game and your last game was against. This is for Carlton.
For Collingwood.
Collingwood.
100%.
The team you followed.
It's funny you mention that because we were playing.
Do you remember that player?
I had hair then. Jeez,
You know what?
I had
We all had hair 18 to 21.
I had hair.
Yeah, don't worry, man. I get you, man. I get you. Yeah.
And you're right though. The first game was against Collingwood out at Vic Park, and that was a baptism of fire.
Yeah, and that's what it said. It was your first game. It was a bit of a baptism of fire, and then you were basically played reserves after that for the rest of the year, and you came back in 77 for a handful of games.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But in 78 was when you really established yourself in the team.
Yeah,
A lot
78 I played something like about 13 or 14 games, thereabouts.
In the forward
79, unfortunately, I had a groin injury which kept me out, but then I came back towards the end
Good
of the
timing,
year. Yeah, but that last game against Collingwood was at Princes Park. At, I can remember it very, very distinctly.
Okay.
That one was, we were getting punched around a bit in the middle of the ground, and at the time Kink was playing havoc that day, and we were behind going into the last quarter, and then I was on the bench.
And what did Master Coach Peter Percy Jones have to say to you at 3/4 time?
Well, the master coach went something like, are we going to run or what? Anyway, but I was asked to warm up at about the 5-minute mark of the last quarter. So, and
you were playing. You were the 19th and 20th.
yeah, I was 19th.
Okay.
But the week before we'd played against Fitzroy at the Junction Oval.
Oh yeah.
And they threw me in the middle against Quinlan. And I actually had a really good day out in the middle. In the country, I used to play as a ruck rover, right, all the time. I was only a forward by default.
Yes.
And I think I played in the under 18s in the country at
Castlemaine area?
Campbell's Creek.
Campbell's Creek,
yeah.
yep.
And that was in the Maryborough District League. And
right.
I was a follower at the time, but not a ruckman, but a follower. And I used to do most of the ruck duties because I could jump a bit back then. Not good now. But anyway, what happened was that I got my first senior game as a 15-year-old, and that was in the country, and they put me at full forward. Well, I went out and I kicked 10 in the first period for the game.
That's it.
That'll do it. We've got a gun full forward on
That'll do it.
And of course, that was how I must have got recognition. But in the same year, I played 9 games in the seniors and 9 games in the reserves in the country. Yeah. And I won the league's best and fairest in the reserves on 9 games.
Wow.
On a count back. So
was that playing mainly in the middle?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Because
Totally
I reckon if back then, I mean, players tended to have positions and you stayed there.
Yeah, correct.
But I reckon back then, if they had thrown you in the middle, like they do these days, you could have had an even more extensive career.
The game against Fitzroy, as I said,
Very
I was up
flexible
against
player.
Quinlan, right? And I love Bernie. He was a terrific player.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I had a reasonably good day out, and that day I actually won the ham.
Okay. The Bataki ham.
The Bataki ham.
No, it was the Hutton's ham.
Back then it was the Hutton Footy Franks. Remember the Hutton Footy Franks?
But I'd actually, and believe it or not, it was over the top of Wolsey.
Oh, nice.
So I took a grab. Anyway, so I came out the next week and I thought, well, I might have been half a chance of bloody well lined up against Collingwood in the middle. And I was a kid that, I mean, I was never talented. I was just a kid that wanted to have a go.
Have a go.
Yeah. And I mean, if there was a brick wall there, I'd have a crack at it.
Yeah.
And that was the way I used to play my footy.
Yeah.
And in that particular game, as I said, Kinky was playing hell in the middle, and I thought, well, you know, maybe I could make a difference, maybe I couldn't.
Yeah.
One of the things that I probably could do reasonably well was read a ball, either off a hand or on in the air. And at this stage, I was hoping that we might have been able to bloody well make a bit of a difference. Anyway, so 5-minute mark, warm up, no problem. about the 15-minute mark, I sat down and I thought, no, this is bullshit.
Oh, really?
This is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
In those days, we came in after the game, and you can cut this out if you want to, but it's up to you.
That's all right.
But we actually, did we win the game? No, we didn't. I think we lost that game.
Against Collingwood?
I think
At
we
Princess
did.
Park?
I think we did. I'm not
That would
sure.
have been a rare game.
Yeah,
Look
I'm
it
not
up.
sure. Look it up. But anyway, and look,
That would have been
No-
a rarity back in those days.
well, that
Because
was
we were
it.
dominant, 79
Yeah,
to 82.
absolutely, absolutely. We
I
should
can
have
hardly
gone.
remember a game we lost at Princess Park.
We should have gone 4, Pete. We should have gone 79, 80, 81, 82. Anyway,
100%.
Sure.
but we all
But
knew.
then again, if Perth had won a premiership in 80, he still would have been the coach in 81 and
no,
82.
the deal was already done.
I was
with
already
Parkin.
done with Parkin.
Oh,
okay.
there you go.
Yeah, Parkin, don't you
So he
worry,
would have.
Parkin.
So he would have had to leave as a premiership coach, even if we had a won.
I
Really?
honestly think that
It would have been a
people-
decision to make. That.
Oh,
What a decision!
I think it would have been one that people would have struggled over. Is it sentimental versus,
well, the year before we got rid of a premiership coach. His name was Alex Jeselenko.
No.
No,
If
he
you
didn't
recall,
get rid- he left, he
if
left.
you recall,
Yeah,
he
he
left
left,
with
so-
George.
yeah,
George,
yeah.
that all blew
What
up.
I mean is he didn't continue the following year.
Oh no,
After winning the
that's right.
premiership.
So realistically, there, and we all knew that Perth wasn't making any moves. All the moves were being made from the coaches
Yeah.
box,
Yeah.
and that was Lofts and all the bloody match committee that were
Yeah.
doing all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was the last game I played. I that was the night.
You just knew.
I
You
cracked it. Well, there was a president's room, if you recall,
Yes.
in the old club rooms, in the old Heatley stand.
Yes.
And the president's room, that's where all the match committee and everything used to go.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I went in there. I reckon I think I got about a 6 or 7 ounce glass of whiskey. I threw that down. And as soon as bloody Lofts walked in, I called him for all the names I could lay my tongue to.
Nice.
And walked out. That was the last game.
Oh, really? That's how it ended.
That's how it ended. And then the Thursday night or the Tuesday night, I had to come in and front the match committee.
Yeah.
And look, you can cut this out if you like. As I said, I've got nothing
You keep
to hide.
saying that, but this
No,
is the
no.
stuff I'm going to keep in.
No.
We're here to.
No, this is it.
This
Whatever
is all
stuff.
part of it.
Wait, before
Tell
you go
this
on
is-
with
this
that,
is all about you telling your story.
before we go on with that,
Yeah.
so we've
Wanna
got
just
Peter
start?
Brown with us, right? So halfway through it.
If you've just tuned in,
If you just
we've
tuned
got
in.
Carlton's 1979 Premiership
Exactly.
full forward, Peter Brown, with us today.
So welcome to the Jumper Punch.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Okay, and we.
Thanks, Vince.
Pleasure, Pete.
All right. So now, what happened next?
Now, I believe you asked for a transfer to a particular club.
I did.
You did.
I did.
And it's a boyhood club
Yeah, it is
that you
indeed.
supported.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they start with C. Collingwood.
Absolutely.
So-
I was.
and they weren't going to let you go to Collingwood, were they?
No, they didn't want
They
me to
didn't
go.
want Carlton players going to Collingwood.
No, they did not. In
You know
fact,
the only one I knew that actually did successfully go to Collingwood from Carlton?
Yeah.
In your era?
there were two.
His name was Ray Byrne.
Yeah, no,
Remember
there was
Ray
two.
Byrne?
There was two. Russell Olsen.
Oh, and Russell, yes.
Yes.
Of course,
And I was good
right.
mates with Russell Olsen.
Yep, yep.
Russell was from Maryborough, and
Yep.
we used to travel down. There's a little story that me and Russ had one night. We were travelling home on a weekend after a game, and he had a small Toyota Corolla. I remember it very distinctly. We used to stop at the Diggers Rest Hotel, grab a slab of beer, and we used to drink it on the way home.
Right, I like it. The travellers.
Drink it on the way home,
Traveller,
including the driver?
Including the driver. And I can guarantee you this night when
man.
Buddy will took off, the stone came through the bloody windscreen, busted the windscreen, so we kicked that out, and every time a car went past we'd hold a can up and
through the window. That's the best.
By the way, kids, drink responsibly.
Yeah, no, don't do
We
it now,
don't
kids.
recommend
Don't
do
drink
it
and
now.
drive.
No, we don't.
No.
Yeah,
Even
so,
though one of our sponsors is Top Dog Liquor.
oh really?
No, I told you.
But don't drive.
No, but
That's
don't
all.
drive. That's it.
no, that's right.
Yeah.
So that was the last game I played, and I actually stood out of football for 6 months after that. And I used to work on a Saturday rather than go and play football. And to be quite honest with you, I'd got pretty disillusioned with the whole thing, and then sort of wasn't all that keen on watching it. Didn't take a great deal of interest.
Did any clubs come after you, like wanting to know where you were? What you were doing?
St Kilda.
Okay.
Believe it or not, that was where
That's
Jezza
where you
went.
ended up.
Yeah, that's where I ended up. Now that's where Jezza went.
That's right. Yep.
And Jezza, David Wanless, I think, was the either the football manager or the general manager of St Kilda at the time. And him and Jezza, I'll never forget it. He rang me up and said, "Oh, how would you feel about coming down and playing down here?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'll come and have a chat to you and stuff like that." So we met at, believe it or not, at the Willows in St Kilda Road, and had lunch there. And I hadn't trained, I hadn't done anything. I was as fat as a seal and bloody, and had been in a good paddock and everything like that. So I ended up going down there.
So all your fans used to clap like that.
I ended up going down, and it was completely different. It was a culture shock. Honestly, it was. I mean, coming from Carlton to St Kilda was known as the party club with guys like Barker and Robertson, all these guys, and I.
The blonder the hair, the more you partied.
That's right. And of course, I was living here in Melbourne and travelling to Moorabbin.
Gee, that would have been a decent trip.
Well,
an hour and a half's drive every day. There was no Westgate Freeway back then.
At the time, I said, well, because of my work commitments and everything like that, I couldn't train any more than two nights a week. So, it didn't really work. Look, to be honest with you, probably I thought 81 was a bit of a write-off. I played a few games and stuff like that, but realistically hadn't got myself fit. So I thought I'd have a decent tilt at it. And in 82, I actually played a few games, or more games in the seniors, but then I ended up playing in the reserves. And I played in the reserves grand final against Geelong in 82 for St Kilda. And I was their number one ruckman, believe it or not.
Wow. Did you play some defence for St Kilda? Were you put in defence?
Mainly in defence.
I was a fullback for St Kilda. In fact, it's funny, there was another little story about, if you recall, I think I was one of the very first trial by video,
really?
and we were playing Richmond at Moorabbin. Yeah. And I was on Roach, and I was playing a full-back, and Roach was a full forward.
Is this in the seniors?
This was in the seniors.
Right, I thought so, yeah.
And I'd given Roachy a bit of a touch-up for the day, and in the last 2 minutes of the game, we were up by 5 points. In the last 2 minutes of the game, Roach had let out, and I'd sort of outpositioned him, and I was off balance, and I took a mark, and I was falling, and as I came through, Jesse came through and hit me straight up underneath the bloody nose and dropped me, and I got carted off, and one of the other guys took the free kick, kicked it. Richmond got possession, won the game by a point. And I'd played on Roach all day, and I'd give him a little bit of a touch-up. So
you must have been heartbroken as well as nose broken.
Well, I didn't know. I woke up in the ambulance, and I thought,
so you're completely knocked out.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And there was a trial. They took it to trial, but of course, if you recall, that was
they had vision.
They had vision, but it was pretty poor vision back then.
It's poor vision now, let alone then.
But the problem was that was the weekend that they had the umpires strike, if you remember, and they had all rookie umpires come in.
That's right.
And they had a situation where the umpire had sort of hadn't seen or didn't know what was going on at the time, and
so
stuff
he couldn't give evidence.
So, and
so did Jess get off it, or did he get suspended?
Yeah, he didn't get. He got off.
He got off.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to come back the year after because I told him to jam.
Payback.
Yeah, payback. But
So this is 1982.
This is 1982.
And they made the grand final. They were the favourites, and of course we knocked them off. I guess that was the ultimate revenge for Carlton supporters. But
it was Richmond and Carlton in the seniors, and it was Geelong and St Kilda in the twos. Yes. So, but we got rolled in the twos. But it was a bit of a shame. Anyway, so 83, I thought, well, I'll bloody well get out and get myself fit, and I was really, really fit. Guess what? Ian Stewart ended up being the general manager at St Kilda. Now, this gets back to this little story that I had with
You're only about 25 at this point, 24, 25.
24.
Yeah.
So, 24, 23?
24 going on 25.
Yeah, that's it. Ian
Don't
Stewart.
worry, I'll tell you how old you are.
Yeah. Ian Stewart ended up at St Kilda. Now, back in '78 when Stewart was coach, he called me in with about 6 games in and said, I think this is not going to work between you and Carlton. I think we'll get rid of you and we'll turf you. So I've gone, oh, good. Now, that was the first time I wanted to go to Collingwood, right?
Yeah.
Back then.
Back in '78.
So, anyway, I mentioned to you earlier about Jack Rout. Now, I love Jack Rout. He was one of these blokes that was the salt of the earth. He was a bear of a man. He was every time that Rowdy spoke, everyone listened, right?
Yep. A lot of respect out there for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
76, we went on a footy trip, right? Now, I was only a kid down from the scrub, so you can imagine,
76.
this is wide-eyed
17,
and,
17, 18.
Yeah, and anyway, so we ended up at Fiji at a place called Pacific Harbour for the footy trip, and we stayed in little villas around the main complex of the.
Yeah.
Jack Rout had a villa. There was Jack Rout, Ivan Rort, and John Nichols that were actually sharing a villa there.
Right.
So, and I shared a villa with a guy by the name of DB Mackay. Now, not Swanee Mackay, but DB Mackay. He ended up in South Australia, and he had a brilliant career over there, both as a player and in the media.
Right.
And I quite often speak to DB, and
So he was on the Carlton list?
he was younger than me,
Right.
and he was on the Carlton list. And as a kid, we went over there. Now, poor old DB, he didn't want to do anything except play 300 games for Carlton, captain them, and win 4 premierships. Never eventuated, never played one game for Carlton in the seniors. He was a reserves player. Left footer. He was an absolute brilliant athlete, and in today's football, he would have smashed him. But anyway.
Right. So what happened with him? Why didn't he end up playing?
Well, again, it
Politics.
was it was politics, but what happened was Stewart got rid of him, and in at the same time, both of us kids at the time, Stewart said, "No, we don't want you around anymore." Well, DB I think was 16, and I was 17 at the time, right? So I said, "Okay, I accept the umpire's decision. I'll move on," right? So I didn't train that week, and prior to that, as I said, back in this footy trip. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around.
No, that's all right.
But things are just coming back.
Yeah, that's okay.
But in this footy trip, as I said, Jack Rout had this villa. Now, we went over to go and visit Ivan Rort and Jack and
Big
Nick.
John Nichols.
And Jack was sitting at the edge of the pool and he was having a beer, and me and DB walks in, and Jack used to stir up all the young blokes, right? He used to love getting into it, right? But he also loved young blokes that used to have a go. So Jack, he was sitting there, he was having a beer, he looked up at me and he said, "Yeah, you're a smart ass young bloke from the country, aren't you?" And I've gone, "Oh, yeah, I might be." He said, "Oh, I've seen you blokes come and go over the years, you're nothing but fucking pussies and everything like that." "Oh, really? Okay."
Was that his way of testing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
And I said, "Let's get it on." Anyway, he stood up, and I've gone, "Well, fuck this, I grabbed him, both of us ended up in the pool. He had his fucking watch on, he had his wallet in, he had he didn't have a mobile phone back then,
No,
but he was in full clothes and everything like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we both ended up wrestling in the pool, and he's got out and he said, "Fuck," he said, "Jesus, you got some balls, haven't you?" And the other blokes are sitting there going, "Oh shit, you don't do that to Jack Rout." He said, "Fuck, I like you," and he gave me a beer, and we sat there and had a beer.
How good's that?
78, when, as I said, Stewart gave me the Tijuana. On the Thursday morning, I got a phone call. No mobile phones back then. Got a phone call at work to say, "Oh, listen, we want you at training." I'm thinking, great, going to get me clearance, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I walk in, the boys are out training.
You're only not even 18 years of age.
No. Walk in, and if there was one thing I used to do I used to love speaking with all the guys that were around the club, like the boot studders, the bloody property stewards, Kenny Klein, Kenny Monk, all these guys. And anyway, when I walked in, I went and said hello to everyone. Oh, Brownie, sorry to hear that, this has all happened and everything like that. It's all right, boys, it's okay, it shit happens and all that sort of thing. Probably won't be the first time or the last one. Anyway, so I thought, well, all I can do is stand here and wait for them all to come in. They trained, and then they all started coming in, and everyone was sort of coming up to me and saying, oh, sorry to hear that, this shit happened and all this sort of thing. It's all right, boys, don't worry. If you remember, there was a guy by the name of Frank Gardiner that used to be on the actual door.
Yep.
Right? All the boys came in. I was standing right back against. If you recall the old rooms, there was a block wall. All of the seating and all the lockers were on this side, and then there was the door that went out through the race, and then there was that block wall. Anyway, so I stood at the back there, and everyone had sort of come in, and they were doing what they needed to do and everything like that. Frank was on the door at the time, and the last one in the door was Ian Stewart. And anyway, as soon as Stewart came in the door, Jack came down from the president's room, and he had the match committee with him as well. He said to Frank, he said, everyone in? And Frank said, yeah. He said, righto, you pricks, I've got something to say. And of course, when Jack says that, everyone just goes,
everyone just listens, yeah.
Right? But I'm thinking, oh, fuck, here we go. What's going on here? He said, there's been an injustice around here. Everyone's gone, oh yeah, what's going on? And he said, no, there's been a mistake made. There's a kid here that's got more balls than the lot of you. And we're going, what the fuck's going on, Jack? He looked over at me and said, Brownie, you're back on the senior list as of tonight. Looked at Stewart and said, you got a problem with that? Stewart said, no, I'm right, Jack.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Next week, came back, started playing in the twos again.
There you go.
Wow.
That's an honest fucking story too.
How's
Well,
that,
how'd you feel there? Like
You must have
just a little
felt,
bit
you must have
in the
felt 10
back
foot
there.
tall, though.
I was just shocked. I thought,
You
shit.
didn't see it coming.
I didn't see it coming. No,
But
I
what
thought.
a public endorsement by Jack Rout, of all people, of you.
Well,
I mean, he singled you out.
well, in front of everybody,
Yeah.
and I thought, I didn't deserve that. I mean,
And that's all because
In
of
his
Fiji.
eyes, you did. In his eyes, you did.
Yeah, sorry.
All because of Fiji.
Oh, yeah, that and probably I don't know. Maybe he used to watch how I played. I don't know.
He probably asked around as well, a few people.
He could have.
Still.
It was a real shock. It
What-
was honestly, I was absolutely
So
That
stunned.
must have made you feel
So
10
Ian
foot tall.
Stewart at the time,
Yeah, it did.
Ian Stewart at the time, coach, yeah?
Yeah.
How many games did he coach then? Like
For Carlton?
Yeah.
I think there
Only a
was only 8.
handful?
I think
Yeah,
there was
8, but
eight.
at that point there, was it at the start or was it like, because he didn't last long
It was
after
early in the season.
It was early in the season.
that. So then he didn't last long
No,
after
No.
replaced
He was virtually gone 2 weeks later.
Oh, so 2 weeks later. So
In fact,
almost the
what-
cards were signed, I
Yeah.
reckon, by then.
I think Jack Rout probably started to realise that, hang
Yeah.
on, this bloke's no good for us. He's getting rid of a lot of young players that have actually got
Well, I
bit
think
of,
there was
a
too
bit
much.
of backbone like yourself.
I think there was too much. I don't know whether there was. I don't know whether animosity is the right word or dissent amongst the players. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, here's an outsider that's coming into the inner sanctum, and the message just wasn't getting through.
No.
Yeah.
They weren't playing for one another and everything like that. And the one thing that Jezza did when he took over as coach in '78 was, if anything, he just toughened everyone up.
Yeah.
Right?
And he galvanised
Discipline,
the group a bit.
yeah, and galvanised it.
Yeah.
So, he was tough. And let's face it, and I love Jezza, so don't get me wrong here, but Jezza's coaching philosophy is very simple, right?
Get as fit as possible.
Absolutely, fit as possible, and the principles of the game don't change,
Yeah.
right? You've got to score through those 2 big sticks at the end.
Yeah.
And however you do that,
Yeah.
and however bloody hard it
It's simple,
is to
isn't it?
do it, you just do it.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
And, there's some mates that I talk to, Harmsy and all of these guys now, that don't like the game that it is today.
Yep.
However, the and I understand that the game's created around athletes and all of that sort of thing, but our game was different to what it is. And I don't know whether you watched last night's game or not between Footscray and GWS.
I actually watched some of it, yeah.
And I thought, wow,
It was
end to end.
Shootout.
It was end to end. There was one-on-one competition.
Contests.
The
It
game.
was like an old style, sort of 70s and 80s
Well,
game.
they
wasn't it?
actually mentioned that in the commentary at one stage.
they did.
You know what else it was?
100%.
It was the highest scoring game of the year
Absolutely,
so far.
absolutely. 33 or 34 goals for the game. And I thought, wow.
We haven't seen that since the 1972 Grand Final.
No. And there was no chance to flood. There was no chance.
No.
And as a spectacle,
Oh, it was so much better to watch.
I think, and as entertainment for the crowd. And, the AFL have got some real problems on their hands, and they've had it for ages.
Of course they have.
The AFL haven't done, I believe, enough bloody stuff in the grassroots of football, the feeder competitions.
Yes.
Right?
He told us that, didn't he?
Absolutely.
What was his? Shane Robinson
Shane
told us
Robinson,
that.
yeah.
He coaches a lot in the country.
Yeah.
And he said they just
Not
don't
putting
do
any
enough.
investment. Yeah.
No,
To
and
invest in.
if you look at it, and again, sorry boys if I'm bloody
No.
bullshitting too much here, but
Go for your life.
the principles haven't changed. There is 120 metres between that goal line and that goal line. 2.5 kicks will get you from one to another. If you're going to do a side, what you do is you shore up your spine, right, and then have your runners.
Yeah.
And then have a decent ruckman in the midfield. If you look at our Carlton side today, which is, I'm really pleased that they're starting to turn the tables a little bit, and I know that Vossi's doing a pretty good job of toughening them up. But seriously, over the years, we have had that many bloody first round picks, etc., etc., and we've done nothing with them. And we're in a situation here where either our recruiting policies have been incorrect, or our personnel at that level has been either mismanaged or just hasn't been doing. And
Bit of both, yeah.
we're now exposed. If you have a look at it, we haven't got a general in the back line that can actually marshal the troops when things get tough, right? That was exposed against Collingwood when the game was on the line and we were in a situation. And the other area we were exposed was in the ruck, right?
Yep.
Now, is it Perrite?
Pitternet.
Yeah. He did a ripper job early on. He got injured, but
Yeah.
we didn't have a backup.
And
ruck.
Wiedering-
I think
Wiedering's
he's
the
our
same in the
most
back
biggest loss this year is Pitternet. You know what I mean? We could take our Wiedering, but we kind of half replaced him, and that even though he's a champion and that, or future champion, but Pitternet to me is a massive loss, man. You can see, look, poor TDK is getting like shoved around now.
Well, we've lost the clearances around the middle ever since.
100%.
And that's because you need a good ruckman. And in all of the good teams you played in, you had good ruckmen.
Yeah.
Well, Nichols, Fitzpatrick,
Well, if you have a look at
Justin
the 70,
Madden after that.
if you have a look at the 79 side, and I won't put myself at full forward as a part of the spine, just leave that aside for a moment. But if you have a look at the spine down the back, you had Southby at full back, you had Dooley at centre half forward. Centre half back, sorry.
Yep.
Then you had either someone like Johnson or Jezelenko or someone like that in the middle, right? Then you had McClure at centre half forward.
Yeah.
And then, all right, I might have bloody
in
well
the
held
71,
back.
well, you were there in the grand final.
Yeah. But then if you have a look around the flanks, you had runners and stuff like that.
And
now that's where the
champions.
Mosquito fleet came in.
100%.
But then you had to look at your ruck fleet. You had the commissioner Fitzpatrick, and then you had Jones
Percy,
at the time. Now, with all due respect, Percy had been a pretty good warhorse for a while, right?
Absolutely.
But and then you had the midfielders, right? You had your likes of Buckley, Sheldon, Armstrong, Keogh, all of these types of guys that had been around, and Ashman, those guys.
Sheldon, Buckley.
Marku, all those
Sheldon,
guys.
Buckley, the whole lot.
So,
Arms.
that quality of midfield was always going to be one of those ones that was hard to beat.
100%. You know what? Because like I've spoken to a few of the, like 79, you were there in 79. So that year there, we kicked on average 120
That's
points
right.
a game. I think it's the highest scoring average yearly score.
Correct.
Except for Geelong did it in the early 2000s or whatever. They kind of beat it by a few points.
In
But
other words, we averaged 120
20,
points
so
a
which
game.
is 20 goals, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
In these days, we average 10.
Yep.
And the AFL is trying to get us to score more goals, right? But
Yeah.
we were there.
Yeah.
Like, why have we gone back and all of a sudden? But
Because
it's like,
coaches have
And the
worked
coaches-
things out, and they've adopted game plans that
100%.
stifle scoring.
100%.
Become more defensive and more defensive and more defensive.
yeah. But we lost that one-on-one now.
Yeah, I
Flooding,
think-
for example, stuffed up a lot of
But if
high-scoring
you
sides.
go to any of the games, and I haven't been to a lot over the years, but if you go to any of the games and watch the game, the television doesn't do the game justice
No, you've got to be.
by
You're not seeing what else is going
exactly.
on. Yeah.
So if you were to pull back the camera and see the whole ground, you would see that everyone's forward of centre half back.
100%. So when you do go to the ground, you'll see that. You'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
like an empty 50.
That's right.
You see an empty 50.
You
It
see
almost looks like
36 players in one half of the
it
ground.
looks like a
sometimes.
Big M Little League. I'm going back.
Where they all
where they
swarm
all
towards the
kind of
ball.
like follow the ball around.
Well, if you recall one of the games, I'm not sure whether it was this year or last year, Zach Toohey let fly with a big barrel
Yes.
or a big torp
Yep.
from around about centre half back, cleared the mids and gone into virtually vacant ground, and the runners ran onto it,
Yep.
kicked a goal.
Kick the
Yeah.
goal.
Right? So the point I was making before of 120 metres between
Yeah.
goal line and goal line, 2.5 kicks and you're home.
yeah, 100%.
Right? Now, when we were playing, we played the diamond, right, which we called the diamond.
Yep.
Now, from full back, we went out between centre and wing, and then back through centre half forward and channeled it through to the
Yep.
forward area.
That makes
Now,
sense,
So you go out to the flanks and towards the wings,
Yeah,
as
towards
you're
the wing,
coming out
and
of
then
the
cut
defence,
through.
and then
Yep.
cut through in the middle.
Yep. Yeah. So that's how we operated in terms of the way they
Yep.
used to play
Yep.
the game.
Yep. Yep.
And then, of course, as I said, you had your runners, right?
Yeah, of course. And
Now-
yeah, we had some good runs.
Getting back to the point of 79 and winning so many games by that sort of margin, I think everyone was shit frightened that they were going to get the shit kicked out of them on
Well,
Thursday
you're
night
not the-
if
you're not the
they
first person to
didn't
say
win
that.
the bloody game. And in fact, in the 79 grand final, at half time when we'll come in and we were bloody behind,
Yeah.
I think Jez's inspiration speech at that day was, "Are you blokes going to start running or what?" I think that was
Wow.
about it. Because at that time we weren't.
Yeah.
We weren't actually doing what we needed to do. Peter Francis, I think I mentioned to you,
Yes.
in that game,
Really good player.
was inspirational in the
Yeah.
first half of that game.
Yep.
He virtually single-handed kept us in the game at that
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
And then it's funny how people's confidence grows when some things go your way. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you go
100%.
for.
Get some momentum.
Harmsy
yeah.
said that you were never going to lose that grand final.
Oh,
He believed that.
I agree with that.
He
I agree.
believed that we were never. He said, "It's not arrogance. We were just never going to lose that grand final."
I think we had a belief and confidence within ourselves that that was the case.
Yeah, you only lost like 3 games.
the year.
Yeah,
For the year, yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I think one of them was at Windy Hill. I think in
That wouldn't
year.
surprise me.
No, I think that was one of the ones that we lost, and I think the other one might have been out at bloody Western Oval. I think.
Well, there's another one that
Did you
wouldn't
get
surprise
flogged
me.
that week?
Oh, absolutely.
Jezza would have put him back on the track.
There were times there where you thought you were going to die.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though. One of the things that Jezzy used to say to us was, if you think you're bloody tired, I'll throw you in a cage with a lion and see how tired you are. and that used to inspire everyone to get up a bit.
It's
and
amazing.
It didn't matter whether you were Dooley, who was, at the later part of his career, or whether it was Jonesy or whoever, or whether it was us young kids. If we lost on you, sure as eggs, if you missed out on a bloody a training session during the week, Thursday night you were doing 20 laps around the ground.
Well, they say that the Premiership third quarter,
Yep.
come about because you were so scared that you were going to get flogged on the Tuesday. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether any of the boys have told you or not, but I was one of those types of blokes that before a game and at half time, if we were behind, I'd give everyone a serve, and I didn't. Not personally, But you know,
As a
I was
collective group.
collective
Yeah.
group. Come on, fucking, let's get on to it. You know, let's
GM
come on,
up.
fellas, and
GM up.
everything like that.
Yeah.
And there was many a time that, you know, someone would be bloody halfway through a speech, Jezra would be halfway through a speech or something, and they'd be dead quiet and everything, and I'd be revving everyone up and shit like that. And that's why everyone at functions and everything, they get into me by saying, "Come on, fellas," and you know, that was just a bit of a catch cry.
Yeah.
But little did I know that it was probably having some sort of an effect on everyone at the time.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, you know, the third quarter that you just mentioned, Rocco, was a quarter of which I think if we were behind a little bit, we just grew that little bit extra at that time.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was sort of getting, getting up one another.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And the other thing is too, don't forget, that side, and you know, it was a champion side. There was no two ways about that. I mean, you don't have to have a look at the players. And the other day when I said to you about that Premiership side, I think there was 11 to 12 kids in that side that were 21 or less in age.
Yeah. Jezza wasn't frightened to play the young blokes, was he?
No, he was not. And the other thing was that there was a great blend of experience and youth in amongst there. And the older players used to really take the younger players under their wing.
Yep.
Dooley's often criticised for not speaking very much and stuff like that, but a lot of the young blokes used to look up to him and
whenever he did speak, you listened.
Oh, absolutely. He was terrific. But you know, everyone
Southby.
was there. Oh, everyone was encouraging.
Mackay.
You know, those types of guys. You know, as a kid, when I first went to Carlton. And I remember the very first day I came down. It was just after my 16th birthday, I think it was, and Keith Mills was the secretary of the club at the time,
Right.
and Chris Pavlo was, and I
Great
know
man, Chris Pavlo.
Chris has passed now, but Chris actually and Keith Mills came up to recruit me from the scrub. So I got this notice that I had to be on the train in Castlemaine. So I kid you not, all my possessions were, and this will make you laugh. Do you recall an old Gladstone bag, the old brown Gladstone bag? I think I had 2 pair of footy socks, 2 pair of jeans, a couple of t-shirts, a couple of pairs of jocks. And I think I had about $40 in me wallet, and on the train down here. I was met at back then, obviously Spencer Street,
Spencer
by
Street
Keith,
Station.
and this was about 2:30 in the afternoon. Came to training, he took me into the rooms, and I was in amongst the lockers, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at all the names on the lockers, and I'm going, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. And I was really starting to panic because I really thought that I was in the wrong.
Right.
You know, I didn't deserve this, you know. And one of the first ones to come to training that night was Bruce Dool. Well, the door at the back there, it banged. I reckon I stood to attention and I didn't know what to do. And I think Bruce walked in and said, "How are you, mate? Welcome aboard." And I trained in that night, that first night, I trained in the jumper I had from up the bush.
Oh, really?
That was the first training session I'd had at Carlton.
How did you feel when you put on your very first Carlton Guernsey with the number 41 in your first game?
Well, it wasn't actually 41. The
was
first jumper I had was 55.
Oh, right.
For the reserves.
For the reserves.
Oh, yeah, but when you played your first game...
Senior game.
Yeah.
Ian Thorogood was coaching at the time, if you recall. Cause
it was at Victoria Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Vic Park. And my
that would have been a baptism of fire.
Well, it got better than that. The baptism of fire was Des Tuddenham and Wayne Richardson. They were my immediate opponents. So
and former heroes, I believe.
And former heroes.
Yeah, they would have been too, just quietly. Yeah.
So I recall this
former Collingwood supporter.
This particular day, being a kid, nervous as a kitten, and all of that sort of thing.
As you would be, 16 years of age, 17 years of age.
And what happened was that prior to the game, I think it was Wes Lofts actually, he came up to him before the game, he said, if you get a chance, take Tuddy out.
Nice.
No problem. All right, I'll have a go. So I was on the half-back flank. So I was picking up Tuddy and Wayne Richardson. They were resting ruck rovers at the time.
Yep.
So at one stage, and look, honestly, I didn't get beaten, but I didn't do anything spectacular either.
Yeah.
But this particular day, Tuddy was coming through the middle. He was wide open.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got you, right? So I off from half-back flank, right? I lined him
This
up.
is your first game.
This is my first senior
of senior
game.
football.
I've got you, Tate. Straight through the bloody middle. I've got him lined up. I'm going to hit him with everything that I can hit him with, right? And anyway, the next thing I know is he's standing over me and going, "Welcome to league football." So he stepped sideways and went bang, and bloody will drop me. And he's looking over me going, "Welcome to league football."
That is fantastic. That is fantastic, man. That's a good
That was the finish of that.
So,
Yeah.
I assume you missed him.
Well,
Well, he got you first.
I think
I think the experience he got
I had a
you.
full head of steam, and I think
He saw you coming.
I think he'd been around long enough to know that this kid's not going to get me. So,
Yeah.
bang,
Wow.
straight over.
But you did end up playing a premiership.
Tell us about that day.
Well, not only tell us about it, what's ever happened to the medal? The
I'm pleased you mentioned that medal.
Yeah, let's
In
have a
those-
look at the 1979 Premiership Medal.
In those
So
days,
they didn't have it on the lanyard.
They didn't have it on a lanyard. They handed them out in a plastic. It was like a plastic box, but it had a clear face on it, and it only had a bit of foam or something in the back. And over the years, it's deteriorated and everything.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I've been given a life membership of the club.
Yes.
And in doing so, it came out in a nice little box here, which I've got there, and as a result of that, there is the piece of
so what we'll do is
silver.
I'll take a picture and I'll put it in the corner there.
Yeah,
Sure.
But there
I
it
don't,
is.
I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but probably not.
We'll put a proper picture up.
Yeah.
But
So
there it is.
Basically,
There's-
like a big coin. It's
That's like a big coin.
It's a
But
circular coin, but it's bigger than a 20-cent
I've
coin.
never ever polished it, as you can see.
Yeah.
I
That
think-
is
you know
fingerprints
what?
and stuff.
I think
That
they're
is.
worth more if you don't touch them. Just
Oh, a bit of patina,
I'm
you reckon?
telling you, man. Like as soon as you touch
There
it,
it is.
it loses value. I reckon leave it. But
Yeah.
that's amazing. That like seriously, that's what everyone. Seriously, all the current players at the moment.
I'm
seriously,
amazed that a few of those weren't lost, seeing that they were.
Well, if you recall, there was
That's
a
what we're
story.
playing for, guys. That's what we're playing for,
That's
guys.
right.
That's all we're playing for.
Well, I think Wayne Johnson actually lost his,
Right.
And I think they had to struck another one for
Right.
him.
Did he lose
but-
his?
Yeah, I think, and
Well,
I'm
see,
not
otherwise
sure
they're
there
in
was a
their
bit.
pockets, they're-
Yeah,
But he had another two.
But that's
Well, actually, interesting.
actually he never lost it. He just sold one.
Well, actually,
And kept one.
interestingly enough, prior to me going to St Kilda, I had David Parkin ring me, and he asked me to come down and speak to him.
Right.
And at that time, I'd had a big blue with Carlton, and it had all turned to shit.
Yeah.
But when David asked me to come back, he did indicate to me that he felt that he would like me to stay on, or come back and play again.
Well, that's a compliment, isn't it?
Well, yes, very nice compliment, I might add. And obviously the boys went on and got the
81,
82. Could I have been a part of it? Who knows?
Who knows?
Under different circumstances, it may have changed. But the result was that I was young and foolish and pig-headed and all of those things, and stuck to my guns. Whether that's right or wrong, I'll be judged later on. But and as I've said to you guys, I didn't play a lot of games at the club, but the significance of that particular medal now,
absolutely.
as you get older, and as the grand finals come and go, the significance of that is probably fairly relevant as you get a bit older.
100%. And even though you are like there was a great side, you won the 70, they're hard to come by.
Well, was it you, Vincent, was telling me that the statistics show that there is less than 1% of all the players that play in the AFL/VFL games that actually get the opportunity
That end up
of
having
doing
one of them.
something like that.
Yeah.
And look, and I've said this before, there are more players that had more talent in their little finger than I had in my entire body. What did I offer? Maybe I offered something that someone else didn't offer at the time.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I was able to be in that sort of situation. So
Listen,
I am proud of that.
100%.
Absolutely should
You know
be proud
what?
of it.
Life's about getting that opportunity and then
Making
taking
the
it.
most of
And
it.
that's it. And that's all it's about. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you know, some people get it and some people don't. Some people like.
Well, you asked me a question before. What was it like about pulling number 41 on? On that
And how
particular
did it come
day?
about, by the way, number 41? Was it you asked for that number?
No,
or they just gave it to you, or what?
absolutely not. No, they just gave me that number, and I thought, well, if they're going to give me that number, I'll accept that number.
That's it.
So there was no desire to go to a lower number like some of the other players, you know?
I probably thought maybe at some stage, but then I thought, well, hang on.
You got to earn that, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's a privilege, and you got to earn that privilege rather than being in a
Bit of
situation
pressure
where,
too if you get those lower numbers, I reckon.
Oh yeah, there is and there isn't. But
At the end of the day, it's all about the emblem on the front of your Guernsey, not the number on your back.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And look, that's something that goes out of your mind. I mean, if you have a look at players like Harmsy, 37.
He played.
McClure,
He played in
36.
54 first.
I mean,
Harmsy.
He played in
He
54.
played in 54 before he went to.
yeah, that's
37.
right.
Yeah.
Well, how privileged was I? I was 41, Wolsey was 42, and
That's right.
Swanee Mackay was 43, for
Yeah,
goodness sake.
That's right.
And I shared lockers side by side with them.
That's unreal, I know.
And to be honest with you,
Yeah.
it didn't matter about what number you had.
No, of course.
It mattered about getting a game and being in a situation where you played for your teammates. And that was the secret. In 79, you played for your teammates.
100%.
Well, you know what? That Premiership Medal, you're the only number 41 to have ever earned a Premiership
Yeah,
medal.
you said
So
that,
you know
and
that.
You are
pretty special.
I didn't realise that at the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been some good players that have come past after me.
At 41.
In 41, you know, Levi Casbolt. Those you had.
Well, he's
Peter
the
Rowe.
only 100th.
Peter Rowe, yeah.
Yeah, Peter Rowe, yeah, of course.
Yeah, those guys, they had 41.
Yeah, they have 41, but none of them have got a premiership, so.
Well, yes, and a lot of them, and they played a lot more games than I did.
100%.
But anyway, look,
It was
it's
a special time, special year.
Absolutely.
Great grand final.
yeah.
And your memories of that actual day, what are they?
Yeah, that's
pretty
an
vivid?
interesting question. Going to the ground, it was. I remember going to the ground because I turned up at the ground at about the same time as Harmsy did, and at that time, obviously we had the opportunity of getting more tickets for family members and things like that. And Harmsy, because we were playing, we automatically got entry to the ground, whereas you know, your guests and everything like that had the ticket.
Yeah.
Well, Harmsy turned up at the game with his ticket, right? And I kid you not, he had his own ticket. Now, and Harmsy can verify this.
well.
You ask him the question, Rock. He had Katrina, his now wife, with him at the time. He was his girlfriend,
Yep.
and they were walking together. And my wife at the time, because I was married at the time, walked in at the same time. And
Geez, you were married young then. You were only not even 20 years of age when you
I
played
got
that
married
grand
at
final.
18.
There you go.
I got married at 18.
Good country boy. They get married young.
Still
They
together,
get married
that's the
young in the
main thing,
country.
Yeah, I had 2 children by the time I was 21. So yeah, so
Fantastic.
and I
At least he's young enough to kick a footy with them.
I have 2 children. One's 45 and one's 43, and I've got 4 grandchildren now.
Wow.
So, but anyway, and the story goes
And
that
you're only in your early 60s.
yeah, well, yes, and the story goes that Harmsy turned up with his ticket. And Katrina was, and she had her ticket, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were just about to walk in, and I said, "What do you got your ticket for?" And he said, "Well, I needed to get in the ground." And I said, "No, you don't." Anyway, he honestly said, "Oh, what the hell am I going to do with this?" And a bloke walked up and said, "Mate, I'll give you $200 for it now." And Harmsy said, "I'll take it, thank you." Put the money in the pocket. And Katrina had to sit with this guy for the bloody game.
That is
Because it's a bloody complete
So
stranger.
his girlfriend at the time had to sit with a
That's
complete
unreal.
stranger. Wow.
So you make $200 bucks.
You can ask
gonna ask
Harmsy
him.
that. You can ask Harmsy that, and he will verify that.
And then he goes and does the famous tap
Yeah,
back in from
absolutely.
the fourth row
I
of the
want to
stand.
find that bloke who bloody bought the ticket, mate. Like, that's unreal.
Well,
man.
I don't know. It was a complete
No,
straight.
no, I'm
And
just
obviously,
saying
in them days, they were, hanging around outside the ground so that you could actually, I've got a ticket for sale or something.
Yeah,
what the hell am I going to do with this? I said, mate, I'll give you $200.
Unbelievable.
That is a great story. And
So,
then he did the
I don't
whole
think you'll
thing.
ever find the guy, but
Oh, you
because if you ask for someone
I'm
to
gonna
come
put it
forward,
out
probably
there,
100
mate.
people
If you
will come
know,
forward.
yeah, no, that's true too. That's true too. 100 people.
And
will
Harmsy
come
won't remember who he is
Nah.
or what he did.
No. He was a
Neither will
complete stranger.
Katrina, even though she sat
Yeah,
next to him.
yeah, no,
it was
complete
40.
stranger.
It was 43 years ago.
up.
Complete stranger.
See, all right. Then quickly about that game.
Yeah.
You were saying like we were behind at half time.
Yes, we were.
We were just behind.
Yep.
What was the feeling like? Like coming into like half time, do you still think you can win, or you're getting a little bit worried there, or?
No, I think what was happening was that the boys and quite a lot of them knew what we were capable of doing, and I think there was a quiet air of, I think we can do this, right? And it only takes one thing to turn the game.
Yeah.
And I think and at that time, if you recall, Jezza was in the middle.
Yes.
And he moved Harmsy to the middle of the ground.
Yes.
And that, I think,
That was the master
that
stroke.
was and Jezza actually went to the back pocket and he was
And that's
picking up.
probably what earned Harmsy his Norm Smith medal. That move into the middle.
Well, that move into the middle, as you recall, we started to get some purchase out of the middle at that stage, and then we started to move forward. So the momentum had changed. Oh, the other thing I think was fairly relevant at the time was Russell Olsen was playing for Collingwood at the time, and he was
playing
giving us
pretty well.
and he was giving us a real touch up.
Ex-Carlton player.
Right, and if you recall, Trevor Keogh got about 4 weeks, I think, for an indiscretion. Well,
That might have been it.
I think that might have had. I think that might have had some.
If
Sort
it
of
was a
impact.
game of soccer, he would have got a red card.
Yeah, well, I think that had a bit of an impact.
Yeah.
You asked me a question before. What was it like? Well, if I remember walking into the ground. I remember getting ready for the ground. I remember the crowd. You could hear the crowd, and that was the year that Mike Brady came out with Up There Gazelle.
Yeah.
And around the MCG, there was these massive speakers which were virtually on top of the southern stand and things like that.
And they belted it out, didn't they?
And as we were coming through the race and coming through the banner, that was what was playing out there at the time. And that night, or the night prior, there was 2 inches of water on the ground. It was just bloody horrible. Conditions
the rain.
were shocking.
Yeah, the rain was terrible.
So we went out, and of course, naturally, to Up There Gazelle and all of that. And then the roar of the crowd was just unbelievable.
Still over 100,000 people.
Yes.
Like 113,000 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Ridiculous.
When
Yeah.
it was pouring with rain and...
absolutely. It had stopped for the game,
Yeah.
but the conditions were
terrible.
trying.
Yeah.
And I think the first couple of minutes, the ball came into the forward line, and I went out into the pocket.
Yeah.
And Worthington was in the back pocket, if you recall.
Yeah.
And he near put me over the fence.
Wow.
And of course, he hit me pretty hard, and I'm thinking, don't show it, don't give him, don't give him the satisfaction.
That's it. I love that.
Don't give him the satisfaction.
Grit your teeth.
Grit the teeth. Anyway, I think the next time it came down, I led out to the pocket or out to. And Pearce actually kicked it to me, and I took a mark on and fell on the ground, rolled around, got up, and I thought, shit, this is within distance. I couldn't lift my foot out of the bloody mud, and I think it felt like the whole weight of the stadium was sitting on my shoulders, and I think I only made the square at the time.
Couldn't lift your legs.
No, I couldn't lift my legs, but
It was very boggy. It was very boggy.
look, and it wasn't. It was one of those games where there was nothing pretty about it. It was just a hard slog. If you recall, I think Billy Picken played reasonably well that day.
He did.
As I said, Russell Olsen was having a good day. I mean, Peter Francis, Wayne Harms, and then the forwards started to kick in. Jono started to get a few kicks. Kenny and all the Mosquito Fleet started to play and stuff. And Jezza was in the back pocket.
Yeah.
Well, I was at full forward. It was one of those shitty days where nothing was going right or anything like that, so I wasn't playing all that well. and Jezza went down in the back pocket with an ankle injury.
That's right.
And in them days,
They
they carried him, but they took him straight off behind the point post.
Correct.
Well, at that time, Bobby Lowry was the runner, and he'd come out to me and said, "Come on, Brownie, you're off." And I was heading to the bench, and then all of a sudden the message come down, "Get to the back pocket." So I ended up actually in the back line.
Oh, right. Okay.
Covering
Taking
Jezza's
Jezza's spot.
yeah.
And I actually played on Ross Brewer that day.
Yeah, he was another good player.
And there's,
Former Melbourne player.
There's actually, believe it or not, I didn't know this, but someone pointed it out to me. There's actually a book that's been published, and there's a photo of me in front of Ross Brewer taking a chest mark and it says, "Now this is how you're supposed to take a chest mark." And it wasn't a very flattering bloody photo of me going. Anyway, so but I ended up in the back line, and the beauty about it was that I ended up on the ground at the end of the game.
That must have been an exhilarating feeling.
Well, it
Because
was
we're only 5 points up.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were coming forward too.
Yeah, exactly.
A few more seconds, it could have been.
Well, it could have been touch and go.
Anything.
It could have been anything. I do distinctly remember we had a priest by the name of Jerry Brigula that used to be with the club, and I think his father, or his uncle or something, used to be the doctor at the time.
Yep.
And in them days, of course, when everyone floods onto the ground, and I was in the middle, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
I think I got down on a knee and I said to Jerry, I said, "For Christ's sake, bless me, because I think that I'll never ever know what this is like ever again." And yes, my son. But look, as a young bloke, obviously the celebrations were special, you know, and I think the significance of it was a little bit lost a bit, because after the game we went to the Southern Cross, and if you recall, Malcolm Fraser was the number one ticket holder of Carlton
Got some
at the time.
pictures of him and Jezza.
Absolutely. Well, we went to the Southern Cross. We had the dinner there, and then we all piled on a bus and was told that we're going back to the Carlton Social Club.
Yeah.
And we were told that we actually had a room to ourselves, so we could just take it in, you know, just enjoy the atmosphere and that type of thing. When we got back to the club, we couldn't bloody move, right? Wall to wall people, and I understand that supporters,
everyone wants
everyone wants to be involved. Well, you were sort of, you know, body to body, and
move.
you know, everyone's back slapping and high fiving and all that sort of thing, and there was about 3, 4, 5 of us. Ashy was involved. I think there was Harmsy. There was, I think, Jimmy Buckley. There was a few of us.
Let me guess, you went to Chase's nightclub.
No. What we did was we swiped a bloody bottle of whiskey and took it down into the rooms and went down and sat in the bloody club rooms down there where no one else was.
Nobody.
And just had a quiet
That's the best.
drink
Got away,
by ourselves. So we got away from it, you know.
That's probably the best
Not
memory.
that we didn't want to be a part of what was happening, but
that
it was
just your moment together.
just a quiet moment just to understand what the situation was.
Of course.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, and this is true, I was home by 12 o'clock that night in bed.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you would have been exhausted.
Oh,
He also was married with 2 children.
No, that's true too. That's true.
I had my wife there and her family there at the game and stuff like that. And of course they had mixed feelings.
I don't think every other player was home in bed by midnight that night somehow.
But they had mixed feelings because my wife was a Collingwood supporter and all of her family, and she had quite a number of her family members. And
So they were having a wake.
Yeah. And my wife's sister, my wife's eldest sister, she just loved Peter Moore.
Peter Moore, yes.
Right?
He just won the
Brownlow.
Brownlow medal
79.
that week.
That week. So,
Oh, was it? No, hang on. No, I might be wrong there. I think that was 77.
No, 79 it was, I think.
I reckon
Sure?
it was 79.
Yeah, it was 79. Yeah, absolutely it was.
It might have been 79. Yes, you're right.
Anyway,
Anyway, I think he won it again in 84. He might have, as a Melbourne player.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, I swapped jumpers with Peter Moore.
Oh wow.
Because those days it was pretty
That's
common,
right.
So you gave your family,
Well,
the in-laws,
Well-
a number 30 kids.
what happened was that
You wouldn't have kept it, surely.
I've still got it at home.
Have you really?
I've got it
Wow.
at home. It actually went to the sister-in-law for quite a number of years, and then it came back to us. So I've got it tucked away somewhere now.
Well, I heard Peter Moore's still got your number 41 and he's waiting for you to sign
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Oh, this is a story.
No, it hasn't. What happened was
I was
that
only kidding, of course.
the two immediate opponents was Fitzy and Peter Moore.
Yes.
Well, Fitzy ended up with my old jumper because Peter Moore wanted to bloody well have
He wanted
Fitzy's.
number 3.
Yes, and Fitzy ended up with my
yours.
old jumper. And
So you need to get that back off him.
well, at some stage, but I don't think he'd probably have it now.
He'd probably throw it
The
away.
commissioner probably threw it away.
Well, you
But-
can give him the number 30 then, do you?
Yeah, I don't think that'll go well with it. I don't think that'll go well within the family. But
Did you
yeah,
swap on the ground?
yeah,
A lot of
Did you
players
put on
I
the
noticed.
jumper?
yes.
I noticed a lot of players actually went up
How you
to
do
collect
that?
their medal.
I know you used to be a Collingwood supporter, but I don't know how you could put the opposition jumper on.
It was a tradition
I
at the time.
know.
And
Maybe I'm
look,
talking
honestly-
as a supporter, maybe.
Honestly, when you're holding that cup
Yeah, I
and
know.
you're running around the ground, you're not looking down here going, "Oh, that's the wrong
You know
jumper."
what? I
Yeah.
think it's one of the last, if it's not the last, it would have been one of the last
It's a
grand
weird.
finals that we saw players swap jumpers. I don't
It's
think it
actually a
happened too
weird
much
look.
after.
There are some photos of
Yeah.
like holding a Premiership Cup with the opposition jumper on. Like
Yeah.
it just looks weird. But anyway,
And I
I
think,
remember in 81, actually in 81, Kenny Hunter
yes,
swapped with Peter Dacos.
Yeah.
That was a very famous one where they swapped.
yeah.
that's a good jumper to have too. Just
Yeah, well, so,
What a
so
wonderful-
it's not the last, but it's one of the last. I think in the early 80s that might have been one of the last we saw the jumper swapping thing happen.
And I think there will be a trivia question which will be around in, say, 10 years' time, if not now.
Yeah.
Who was the last playing coach of a winning premiership side? Of course,
The great Alex Chisholm.
great Alex Teslenka. And I must say that Jezza was probably instrumental in the fact that I played as many games as I did with Carlton, so I was very grateful for Jezza. He actually, as you rightly pointed out, he did give the kids a bit of a crack at it.
Yep.
Jezza was the type of guy that if he told you that you had to do this and you went and did that, and if we
would
lost,
acknowledge
that was on him. If you didn't do what you were told and we lost, then it's on you.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
So that was
He was
one
fair
of
in
the
that
yeah, very fair. Yeah.
100%.
But like I said before, boys, I didn't play a lot of games, and I go to reunions and things like that, and I'm pretty humbled with the guys that are around me.
Of course.
And
but you're still part
No,
of
but
that.
you filled a role at the time that was very much required. I mean, was there a game in your mind that stood out for you? The game that, you really came off the ground saying, geez, I played well that day?
You kicked
I
6
think you
in the
kicked-
game, didn't you?
No, 4. I think, wasn't it?
No, 6.
Was it 6?
Yeah, that's a story in itself. That was at Princes Park against St Kilda, and that day, Peter McConville, Macca,
Yes.
was
Oh, yes.
playing at full forward for the 2s, and I was selected at full forward
100%.
for the 1s.
Yeah.
Barry Breen was actually at fullback this day.
But McConnell before that was playing. He was like the forward.
He was playing forward and back,
Yeah.
Macca, and he was predominantly a forward. He came down from Bendigo as a
Yes,
forward.
that's right.
So, anyway, we were playing St Kilda, and just before the game, Jezza come up to me and said, "Macca's just bloody well had a good day out in the 2s, and if you don't bloody perform, you're out." And I thought, oh, okay, so I've gone out.
And
I've,
kicked 6.
Yeah, I've kicked 6. But the worst part about it was I kicked 9 points and 2 out of bounds
That's
on
right.
the full.
That's right. You could have kicked a dozen that day.
Yeah,
You had
that's
your
right,
kicking
that's
boots on.
I guess there was only one other game that I could probably honestly put my finger on. It was against North Melbourne
North at Arden Street.
Street.
Yeah, that's right. That
And
was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, well, I'd kick 5 up until half time, and that was from centre. I was playing at centre half forward, or alternating between centre half forward and centre. And I friggin' went up after the half time at 3/4 time to take a grab, come down, rolled the ankle, and I chipped it, and I ended up. Oh, another story. Back in the club rooms, the doctors had a look at the ankle. Yeah, that's not so good. We better get you to hospital so you can have a look at it, and you might have to go into plaster. So they call this bloody ambulance. The ambulance turns up, throw me in the back of the ambulance, straight off to the bloody Royal Melbourne. right? They dump me at bloody emergency and that's it. They take off, right? So I'm there and I'm thinking, what the hell do I do? I'm still in my footy gear,
I was
right?
going to say, were you still wearing the jumper?
I had my jumper on and everything. Anyway,
Footy boots.
I'm in emergency. The doctor comes out, has a look at me and goes, there's not much we can do. We've had an x-ray, mate. It's got a chip in it. There's nothing you can do about it. We'll bandage it. That's about it. I've gone,
Go home and rest.
Shit, what do I do now? My car's back at bloody Arden Street. And so, anyway, no mobile phones back then or anything like that. So I think, the only way I'm going to get to Arden Street is get a cab. So I jump in this bloody cab, takes me to bloody Arden Street.
And you got a broken ankle.
I've got a bloody chipped ankle. And I'm on crutches, right? They've given me some crutches to bloody use.
Some painkillers, I hope.
And a painkiller, right?
Yeah.
Get back to the bloody... Everyone's deserted. It's all gone. The game's finished. Bloody... It's dark, right?
My God.
I'm thinking, fucking hell, there's my car over there.
How do you get your keys?
Well, I had my keys in my bag and I
you had your bag with you?
me.
Okay. Imagine if you didn't have your bag with you.
Worst part about it, the manual car.
I was going to say manual car.
Little Corolla.
Was it
So-
your left or right foot?
It was my right foot.
Oh, so you gave
So,
accelerate.
brake, accelerate.
Yeah.
Right? So here I am, driving home with this chipped ankle, crutches beside me, in this
God.
bloody car, in a manual car.
Couldn't you have rung up your wife or someone to come and meet you?
Wife didn't have a licence, so she didn't have a car.
And plus no phones.
No phones.
Were you
A
gonna
ring
get-
home. Like,
Yeah, so
You could have.
I could have, but
Yeah.
well, at the time, no, we were living at East Kid, we didn't have the phone on. So this is
not
all
like
good
these
stuff,
days.
isn't it? So, I pull in the driveway at home, struggle out of the bloody car, crutches.
The first thing she says is, where are you
Where the
been?
bloody hell are you been? I'm on crutches. She's going, you got a problem with your ankle? I said, yeah. Monday morning comes around. I was working for a company that gave virtually my career. At the time, it was a company called North Shower Screens. Now, it was owned by a bloke by the name of Raymond Efron, and
Yes.
North was Efron backwards, and he was a Carltonian
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
So I was working for them. And, of course, in those days, you had to work for a living. You had to,
course.
Yeah.
So I was leaving at
Football was
5 in
part-time.
5 in the morning, not getting home until 10 o'clock at night because I was going to training. And then after training, I used to go and pull beer in a pub, just to make ends meet.
yeah.
Young family, wife
Right.
not working,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So Monday morning comes, crutches are out. I'm on the phone across the road from the house, ringing the boss going, mate, I've got a chipped ankle, but I'm coming to work. And he's gone, no, you're not. You can bloody well have a couple of days off. And I said, I'm okay, I'm all right. And he's gone, no, I don't want to hear about it. So 2 days later, in the bloody car, crutches beside me, went to work.
Yeah.
So
Unbelievable.
that
No,
was
but
just the way it was back then.
That's life, and you didn't know any better, and that you had to go and make a living, like you said. Like at the time, what were you getting paid?
Yeah. My first senior
always
game.
interesting.
This will give you a giggle. My first senior game at Collingwood. I was probably, and again back then, it's not like it is today with managers or anything like that. You went and bloody well negotiated your own contract. So
Can you imagine how intimidating it would have been for some of these young boys to negotiate their own contracts with an Ian Collins or a Wes Lofts or
Listen, my
whoever was in charge?
First senior game at Collingwood at Vic Park, right? Match payment, right? $35 was my match payment for the day. I thought, happy days.
Yeah.
Didn't realise that 17 of it I'd pay in tax. So
That's
that
right.
was. And
So
look,
what was
honest-
that compared to working for the week?
Well, working for the week, I was probably earning $200 back then a week. So $35 was reasonably
Or
good
an
money.
afternoon, that's
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, towards the end of when I was playing, I wasn't, there was blokes there that were getting more money than I was, but I kind of figured that, whatever I got was a bonus. And
It was more about playing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was
that's
more about
it.
the actual playing of football. And
the expectation of the jumper, of playing the game and stuff like that was fantastic.
Did you enjoy the culture at Carlton at the time, or was it so politically charged at the time that the culture suffered a bit at the time?
I think towards the end of the career was, and that was, if you recall, Ian Rice and those guys came in 80.
They took over.
I think that's when the culture of Carlton started to change a little bit. I mean,
From
not
the George Harris days?
Yeah, from the George Harris days. I mean, from the George Harris days, it was like a big country club at that time. Even though it was more professional and stuff like that, but it was more of a country club, and it started to swing a little bit, and the culture, more corporatised, and
because of course Ian Rice, after 3 years, I think he was the president for 2 of the
That's right.
premierships. But then after '83, then John Elliott took over and corporatised it even more.
Well, I wasn't a part of the Elliott regime, so I didn't know. But I can honestly say that out of 2 football clubs, and I went after I left St Kilda, and the story I was going to tell you about St Kilda, as soon as Ian Stewart went there as the general manager, and this was in the start of '83, right? He called me into the office. And I sort of thought in the back of my mind,
I knew we'd end up coming back to this story eventually.
Here we go. This is going to be this is going to be interesting.
This is almost like the Dennis Pagan, Corey McKernan scenario.
Very similar. So I get called in, and he's sitting at his desk, and I walk into the office, and he says, "You remember me, don't you?" And I said, "Yep, I do remember you." And he said, I think we might have a problem." He said, I said to him, "Look," and I said, you can cut this out too if you want. "Listen, let's not fuck around here. Let's get right to the point. I don't like you and you don't like me. And because of what happened to Carlton, you're going to fucking give me the arse. But before you do, you stick it up your fucking arse, I'm out of here." And I ran, and I bolted. That particular year, they wanted clearance, put a clearance amount on my head. Now, I actually went
Transfer fee.
Yeah, that's right. I went from the VFL to the VFA without a clearance.
You played for my club, Coburg.
That's correct.
That's where I grew up.
Harold Martin was the coach.
Yes.
I had a brilliant... I loved that year at Coburg. It was fantastic.
Yep.
It was good fun.
And you played well. Very well.
Anyway, so I thought to myself, well, he's not going to get me. And at that stage, if you recall back then, if you transferred between the 2 associations without a clearance, lifetime ban.
Oh.
So I couldn't play for any affiliated VFL side at the time. So I couldn't go and play in the country or anything like that because they were affiliated with the VFL. So I got a lifetime ban about playing outside of the association. So I couldn't do that. So I went to Coburg, had 12 months. Yep. Between Coburg and St Kilda, I'm owed 40 grand, just quietly.
Really?
Still today. Still today.
Because Fox was there in 81, 82 as the president, if you recall, and that's when they gave me 10 cents in the dollar. Oh, happy days, that was good. But then Coburg, but look, after Coburg, that's right. And Coburg, after Coburg, I went and had a small stint at Werribee, but then I wasn't enjoying it, so I gave it away.
Yeah.
And look, honestly, I wasn't about chasing the money. I could have gone and played somewhere else and got more money.
Sure.
But
you were only in your mid-20s at the time, 25, 26?
25 I was when I retired. So I gave it away at 25, went and carved something out for myself, carved myself out a career. I was the type of bloke that understood that football was never going to, be the be in and all in.
You weren't going to retire on it?
No, absolutely not. And I was the type of bloke that believed in life goes in increments, and that was a part of my life, and it was a lovely part of my life, don't get me wrong. And every now and then there is, some supporters that may recognise or something like that, they want to speak. Yeah, want to speak and stuff.
I'll never forget.
And look, it's very humbling and satisfying to know that I was probably a part of something that a lot of people aspire to but never get the opportunity of doing.
100%, man. Yeah.
Well,
very special.
It is. And look, we could probably talk for another 2 or 3 hours. I'm sure we'd have a lot more stories, because I think there's a lot more stories.
We might have to catch up and do a part 2, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe we will.
We'll do a part 2 for
But look, Peter, you were a vital member of that 1979 Premiership team. You played about 35 games for Carlton. I think.
35.
35, 38
And
goals.
kicked 38 goals.
Correct.
And you did the number 41 Guernsey proud. You're the only
100%.
player to have ever got one of those medals around your neck.
well.
One day it'll go around your neck.
And that's it. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Now I say to all the players, you're a premiership player, but now you're a legend of the jumper punch.
That's right.
All right, so you can put that in your resume now. So
That's
you're
right.
a legend of the jumper punch.
That even goes above the
Nah,
premiership
it goes
player.
above,
doesn't
mate.
it?
I'm telling you, mate. Being part of the show is that's it. So.
No, we really appreciate your candidness and your honesty and all the stories that you've told us today. It's been tremendous.
Oh, well, I hope I haven't rattled on too much.
No,
or
it's been
anything like
great.
that.
Fantastic. That's what
no,
we
loved
love.
it.
We love the stories. That's what we're here for.
No, that's it. We loved it. All right.
All right. Thank you very
much.
Thank
Appreciate
you, Rocco.
that.
Yeah.
Peter,
Thanks, Vince.
terrific, mate.
Yeah, no.
Thanks for catching up with us.
Absolutely.
And all the very best for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's any kid out there that wants to play AFL, VFL, AFL, should I say,
Yeah,
football, never ever lose sight of your dream.
100%.
Give it a crack.
That's
Yeah.
a good way to finish it.
Absolutely.
Go
All right.
Blues.
Go Blues.